There's absolutely no way I can finish this before the release of the Suikoden HD remasters, but it's still worth talking about it because to me this is one of the best games ever made. Am I exaggerating? I'm not sure. Suikoden II stands on this weird spot where it's really well regarded by JRPG fans, but it's still somewhat niche. By the time of its release in America on September 29, 1999, we were still in the middle of the golden age of the PS1. It wouldn't be unfair to say that the game went mostly unnoticed with the exception of the most hardcore fans. But let's not dwell on that too much, we are here to play. Before we begin, remember you can check the whole playthrough on my channel. Also, I'm using a patched copy of the American release of the game that fixes several bugs present in the US version. I fixed every bug except for one. I bet some veterans of the series can already guess which one I am talking about. Having said that, let's begin. The canon name this time is Ryu. After entering the name, you can choose a Suikoden I save file. The effects of this are mostly some Easter eggs, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We start with Ryu and his best friend, Jowy. It's the last night before they return home from the army's youth brigade. The first thing you'll notice is that we can finally run without the need to waste a rune slot on your character. After we go to bed, we are awoken by sounds of battle. We are ambushed by the city-state forces, and we start to run into the woods. However, Jowy realizes that if we do that, we'll most likely get ambushed, so we run back to the camp. In there, we see Captain Raud talking to Prince Luca. It's pretty obvious by this point that this is a false flag attack to incriminate the city-state and provoke a war, but the game is kinda slow about acknowledging this plot point. Ryu and Jowy try to escape, and when surrounded, they make a solemn promise and jump into the river down below. Then we'll see a series of flashbacks. It kinda feels rude to speak during reminiscence, so I am just going to let it play. One thing you can notice right away is that the graphics, the animation, and the music have all improved. After the sequence is over, we're rescued by none other than Victor and Flick, and since we're technically still a Highland soldier, we're put in prison. The next few days we'll be tasked to do chores around the base. Eventually, one night, Jowy will come to rescue us, only to get captured immediately. And the very next night, we successfully escape. Since we can't go home right away, we stop at Ryu village and befriend the street performers Ailey, Rina, and Volgan. Once they join, I realize that every time the party changes, we get the option to alter formation. This fixes one of my main problems from the first game. Anyway, with our new group, we can go up to Sparrow Pass and no, I am not even going to speculate what did Rina do to open the way. This is the first proper dungeon of this game, and the first thing you'll notice is that it's considerably harder to unlock the Let Go option. This means that you'll be fighting more on average compared to the first game. At the end, you'll fight the Mistshade boss, and it's really a step up from the first game, with more varied attacks and a decent damage output. Go all out with combination attacks, magic spells, and a new type of item, the Magic Scrolls. The boss will go down soon enough. Once we arrive at Chiaro, the group splits up. Ryu goes to visit his sister, who is mostly the comic relief of the game. But things go wrong very quickly when soldiers show up at your house. Jowy is also dragged away from his house and into jail. Rode starts monologuing and explains all the evil plans that were obvious from the start. And soon we'll get paraded through the streets where we meet the Princess of Highland, Gilia. With the rope around our necks, and when everything seems lost, Victor and Flick save the day once again. We go pick up Nanami, who seems to have matters well in hand. After, we quickly leave the city, and we won't be able to return for a long time. Once we reach the Mercenary Fortress, you'll be given freedom to assemble a party and roam the map to recruit more characters. If you go back to Ryube Village, you can recruit Rikimaru, Millie, and the Kinison and Shiro team. Just don't take unnecessary risks. Remember, you can always return to the fortress to rest, change teams, or improve your weapons. I almost got destroyed by some random trash mobs, and that would have been really embarrassing. When you are ready and you want the story to continue forward, travel to the northwest into the village of Toto. I have to confess, I had totally forgotten where this village was, and I had to do a pirate software and pull up a guide to remember where to go.
But wait a minute.
As soon as we arrive at the village, we meet Pilika and her family, who are the ones that helped Jowy recover. She sets you aside and asks for a favor. We need to go buy something in the nearby city of Muse. Before leaving, don't forget exploring the town and recruiting Samsa. Once we get to the item store, they try to rip us off. And I actually refuse to use my own money to buy the gift, so Jowy is forced to sell something to afford it. I know this is meant to establish just how much Jowy cares about the family, but it was really funny that I could just go, fuck you and fuck your gift. When we return to the village, we see that it has been destroyed by Luca Blight's forces. We approach a crying Pilika and take her to the fortress. We'll also run into Apple, one of Matthew's students from the first game. To prepare for the incoming attack, we are sent to look for Sai, the only man that can repair the fire spears, another reference to the first game. We should already be familiar with the forest area behind Ryube Village, and it won't be difficult to find Sai's house. On our way back, the village has been set on fire, and we get the legendary Die Pig scene. Oof, right in the nostalgia. Sometimes you just miss unrepentant evil. After returning to the fortress, we'll fight an army battle. In this new format, you can actually move units and order attacks. A big step up from the previous game. Sadly, we are eventually overwhelmed and forced to run away. Ryu and Jowy arrive just in time to see Paul die and to save Pilika from Luca Blight. Sadly, the little girl seems to be in a permanent state of shock and has lost the ability to talk. On our way to Muse, Pilica guides the group to a special shrine where Ryu and Jowy are magically teleported to meet none other than Legnat. Walking deeper into the cave, we'll be shown more flashbacks to the duo's childhood. Eventually, Ryu and Jowy will share two halves of a true rune, the Bright Shield and the Black Sword. And so a new story of the Stars of Destiny is set into motion. Once the group arrives at the city of Muse, we realize the way is completely closed. But outside the city, we'll find an inn where we meet Hilda and Alex. If we help Alex gather treasure on a nearby ruin, he'll grant us entry into the city. The following dungeon is actually pretty good. You'll be picking up keystones and activating doors. I kinda got lost at some point because I missed this little access to the road. You will really start to feel the encounter rate here, but the inn is right outside if you need it. The boss is pretty easy. Jowy's Black Sword rune hits like a truck. At the end, the big treasure was just a pouch of healing herbs, which Alex doesn't like very much. But would you know it, his wife falls ill as soon as the team returns. The solution is obvious. We've got to pick up the herbs and go back. Even with the pass, the team fails to enter Muse. We are sent to jail, something that happens very frequently for some reason. And we have to listen to Jowy getting all emo on us again. Eventually, Victor and Flick will get you out. Now, before we continue with the main quest, you might want to trigger this hidden side quest. By walking on the east part of town, you will start Elsa and Clive's side story. I call this hidden because every step is on a timer, making it very easy to miss. I can't recommend newbies pursue this because you basically have to rush the entire game and you should really take your time with it. At the end of the day, this side quest is just some interesting lore tidbits, but it's nothing worth losing your sleep over. Even on this playthrough I'm recording right now, I've wasted so much time I'm not sure I'll be able to do it. Unless I cheat.
Phony lives here! A big fat phony!
Remember how I said at the beginning that I fixed every bug except for one? This little exploit is so emblematic of the Suikoden II experience I didn't want to hide it from this video. We continue with the main quest by going with Victor to visit Annabelle, and you discover she actually knows about Ryu's grandfather. Once Victor leaves, when we talk to Jess, he will give us a mission to spy on a highland camp. Go back to Leona and gather a party. If you want to use the exploit, this is the time. Go northwest into the Muse Matilda border and don't talk to the guards, just push the gates open. If you treat the normal fights like they were boss battles, you can definitely win. But if you're having too much trouble, you can do a little sequence break and recruit Humphrey and Fudge on the nearby town and use them to tank the enemies while the rest of the party leeches XP. Once you reach around level 34 with a few characters, go back to Muse and boot Humphrey and Fudge. Don't worry, you'll be able to continue their quest later. With this massive level boost, you can pretty much breeze through the first 60% of the game or so and make it easier to reach Clive's quest in time. Continuing with the main quest, we go north into the Highland camp, but it doesn't take long before Captain Raud discovers Jowy and Ryu, and we are forced to run. We end up hiding in Gilia's tent, who actually decides to help us. After some tea and an enlightening conversation, we have to keep running. Eventually, Jowy and Ryu get separated. Upon returning, we report our findings, but everybody is concerned because Jowy has not returned yet. Then there will be a prolonged scene where Nanami waits for Jowy on the outskirts of the city. And you can choose to leave if you want. I think this is the first time I waited until the end of the scene. It's funny in retrospect. I'm waiting for our best friend. Yeah, whatever, I'm going to sleep. Joking aside, Jowy finally returns and we get a nice group hug. After a week goes by, we get to see the summit of the leaders of the city-state. As it usually happens in games like this, no politician present wants to help or commit to the war effort. After the summit is over, Annabelle asks Victor to delay the Highlands army advances. During the following army battle, our reinforcements will withdraw suddenly, and we are forced to retreat. Something suspicious is going on. The next morning, we prepare to talk with Annabelle, who promised to explain all she knows about our grandfather. While we wait for her to be ready, we spot Jowy talking to Cage, or is it Kage, the ninja from the first game. This should have set many alarm bells immediately, but our character can't do anything about it. Later, we see a scene with Victor and Annabelle, and our boy refuses to simp. But later, Jowy reveals his plan. He has become a Highland spy and assassinates Annabelle. At the same time, the Highland army attacks and breaches the city, forcing everyone to run away. Ryu, Nanami, and Pilika are forced to sleep outside during their escape. In this scene, Nanami expresses how she doesn't want to fight anymore. And it's not the first or last time that this happens, and it will pay off way later into the story, but I wanted to point out just how early this gets established. If we keep going south, we will reach Coronet. And I got lost again. This is one of those cases where you have to do things in a certain order. First, go get yelled at by the soldier at the port. Then return to the inn to meet the traveling performers again. And then discover the way to the fisherman's hut, which took me an embarrassing amount of time. Once you get lucky enough to win a dice, the fishermen from Suikoden I will take us south by using their boat. When we arrive at South Window, we'll be received by Victor and taken to an audience with the mayor. The mayor sends us on a mission to the abandoned town of North Window. His assistant Fred joins the group. The Y on his name is supposed to stand for Yamamoto, but I just always called him Freddy. Then the game spoils itself by showing Neclord on one of those CG sequences. I know it was fashionable at the time, but these videos didn't even look very good then, especially when you remember the high-quality anime sequences that other games in the franchise use soon after. Anyway, we go back to the tavern, assemble a team, and travel to North Window. This is Victor's hometown if you remember the first game. Once again, we confront an invincible Neclord, and just like before, we are going to need a special weapon to defeat him. He lets us go and even asks to bring the sword the next time. Victor has conveniently placed the Star Dragon sword in a nearby cave, so that means we have a new dungeon to go through. There are a few segments with very simple puzzles where you push rocks to block the wind. Before reaching the end, we'll meet Khan, a man whose family spends generations fighting vampires. And he doesn't use a whip. Wasted opportunity if you ask me. He explains that Neclord can create extra bodies and that's why he survived our encounter in the first game. At the end of the cave, the sword is not happy with us and will start a fight. It's a pretty average boss battle. After the fight, the sword calms down and we can return to North Window. The castle in North Window is another short dungeon. There's a couple of simple puzzles as well. At the end, we confront Neclord yet again and he attempts to negotiate with Victor, a resurrected loved one, in exchange for the sword. But our boy Sigma Victor refuses to simp again. The team prepares for a fight, but Neclord escapes and leaves a boss. Khan's resurrection rune is particularly effective for this one. When the battle is over and we prepare to leave, Flick and the rest of the team unexpectedly show up with bad news. The Highland army has conquered South Window and the mayor has been executed. It's only a matter of time before they find them and wipe everyone out. Apple has an idea. Matthew's brightest student lives on a nearby town, and if we manage to convince him to fight for us, we might stand a chance. We arrive at the town of Radat and seek an audience with Shu, but he turns us down. Apple refuses to give up, and we basically stalk Shu for the entire day. We'll meet Richmond the detective that helps the team find Chu again. He kinda looks like Columbo. It can't be a coincidence, can it? I hear the Japanese really love Columbo.
Columbo 警部、殺人家の。
Once we meet Chu again, he proposes a challenge. If we can find a coin that he tosses into the river, he'll help our army. To search for the coin, we need to close the gate and lower the water level. To do this, we'll have to 1v1 the sailor Amada. Apple insists on looking for the coin even deep into the night, despite Nanami's objections. I have played this game tons of times, and Nanami used to annoy me, but it's pretty character consistent if you think about it. More on that later. Eventually Ryu will find the coin and Shu will relent. The camera slowly pans towards Richmond, and all's well that ends well. Back at the castle, Shu prepares the strategy. We will sneak attack the commanding unit of the enemy with Ryu, expecting that his relation to Genkaku, a hero of the city-states, will unite the people and turn part of the enemy army to our side. The army battle will be easy, just keep attacking Solonji's unit. This will force the Highland army to retreat. After a hero's welcome and lots of celebration, North Window will become our headquarters from this moment forward. And should he accept, Ryu will become the leader. That night, you can decide to visit Victor, and he'll tell you the story of your grandfather. To make it short, Annabelle's father put Genkaku in an impossible position that ended up with him getting unjustly exiled. Once you decide to become the leader, our old friend Legnat will show up alongside Luke and give the familiar speech about destiny. When you attempt to leave, you will trigger this scene with Fischer. Follow him into the conference room and hear him out. He comes to try and establish a friendly relation between us and the city of Two Rivers. We need to travel there, but for that we also need competent sailors. It is at this point where you should visit all nearby towns and recruit as many characters as you can. I leave that at your discretion. The only obligatory one is Amada. When you feel ready to continue, take your sailor to the main room. And I got lost finding the boat. Just go through this door and travel west. When we land on Lake West Town, Fischer gives us a letter of introduction and says he'll go ahead to Two Rivers. You can advance Clive's quest here, by the way. As soon as we enter Two Rivers, we'll get our wallet stolen, including our introduction letter. Without it, we can't enter the building for our meeting with the leaders of the city. Now we need to chase the thief, a kid with wings called Chaco, all over the city until he flies away. When we return to the main building, we can save Fischer and speak with the leaders Mackay and Ridley. But nothing really gets done. We complain about our wallet and then we are sent to the local inn for the night. After another talk with Chaco, we return the next day to see that Mackay and Ridley are fighting. Ridley calls everyone a traitor and storms off. On our way to speak to him, we are blocked by kobold soldiers. And when we change screens, Chaco steals from us again and we must chase him. This time, Chaco escapes into the sewers and we have another dungeon. And the boss at the end was the first time I died. And it's completely my fault, as I just selected characters for variety's sake and not for effectiveness. I was too overconfident in my overpowered main character. By the way, just like in the first game, escape talismans only work when they want to. Not every dungeon is a dungeon, I guess. Well, anyway, when I came back prepared, I beat the fight, no problem. We exit the sewers right inside the kobold sector of the city and we speak with Ridley, who explains that he found documents saying that Mackay plans to betray the kobolds. When we return to the city's center, we find that Mackay is talking with Highland General Kiva and his son Klaus with intentions to sign a treaty. Mackay denies Ridley's accusations, and it's becoming clear that this is just Highland creating distrust within the city. The Highland army surrounds 2 rivers and we can't leave, but we get a message to speak with the Winger leader. We get a nice lore drop, but nothing that can save us right now. The next morning, the Highland army predictably betrays Mackay and things start to look really bad. But the Winged Horde shows up to assist and provide air support. We run towards Ridley and use our Suikoden protagonist charisma powers to convince him to join the fight. The now unified city holds on long enough for Chu's reinforcements to arrive and the Highland army retreats. The scene cuts to Luca Blight's camp, where Solonji is executed and Jowy takes his place, and his new mission is taking the city of Greenhill. Then we return to 2 Rivers and the city officially joins our alliance. When we return to the castle, we are informed that the city of Greenhill is lost, and while we can't retake it by force yet, Chu plans to rescue their leader, Teresa. Since the city is a college town, we will go undercover as young students, with Flick serving as the bodyguard. We enter the city after a little comedic scene where we create fake names, and after a few incidents, we finally join the university. Now, I'm going to be frank, I don't like this segment of the game very much because what we do is just go up and down the town without any real objectives, trying to trigger scenes to move the plot forward. To keep things short, Teresa was being kept hidden by her assistant Shin, and we managed to track her down after a bunch of wacky hijinks. Talking to Teresa, we learned that Jowy's strategy was to release the Muse soldiers into Greenhill, and then just sit and wait until the food started becoming scarce. And the infighting weakened the city, allowing Highland to pretty much take over without a fight. Teresa refuses to come with us, and the next day we are spotted by Jowy and forced to run. Given the circumstances, Teresa plans to give herself up, but the citizens and refugees support her and allow her to save herself while they distract the enemy army. On our way out, escaping through the forest, we run into Jowy. He wants to stop Luca, but from the Highland side, and asks that you abandon the fight. He's gonna do that a lot. We also see that he has support from the other generals, Sid and Kulgan. Back at the castle, Teresa and some of the Greenhill characters made it safely. Then the scene cuts to Luca Blight's camp, and Jowy asks for Gillia's hand in marriage. There's obviously hidden intentions behind that, and we'll soon find out. Our next mission is to negotiate a possible alliance with the Knights of Matilda. And we need to travel all the way to the north of Greenhill. On the way there, don't forget to visit the forest village if you haven't already, as there are a couple of recruits and the next step of Clive's quest if you're trying to complete it. Now we can pass into the forest path to Matilda, and it's a small area with enemies, and thank the gods, my favorite Suikoden waifu Vicky teleports in. Sadly, it's going to be a while before we get the blinking mirror to fully use the teleport system. We are received by Neclord, one of the knights we met back at Muse, and we are escorted to meet with Gorudo, the leader of the knights. And he pretty much dismisses the whole thing immediately without giving us a chance. That night, Neclord wakes us up to give another one of her pep talks. Why was Ryo sleeping on the same bed as... I'm not saying anything. The next morning, the Highland army is spotted near the border and we have a battle sequence, but we can only sit and watch how the refugees are killed. Because of Gorudo's inaction, Neclord decides to go to Muse personally, and Camus asks that we accompany him. Before exiting the city, however, be sure to visit every store, and if you are on Clive's quest, there's another scene here. When you leave, it's going to be a long time before we can return. If you're shooting for the best ending, you may also want to complete the Humphrey and Fudge side quest, which is pretty close. I forgot to do this during the recording, and if it wasn't for the gate glitch, I might have had to start the whole game over. We join Neclord at the border, and when we get close to Muse, we will see another CG sequence. Luca is feeding souls to something, but there is not enough information to know exactly what it is yet. Returning to Matilda, Gorudo refuses to act once again, and both Camus and Miglotov quit their positions along with part of the Matilda army, adding more numbers to our forces. Before continuing, you should probably rush towards the restaurant in Radat for another step in Clive's quest. We cut to Highland, where we get the reveal that Jowy is working with Leon from the first game as a strategist. The next morning, we wake up to the news that the Highland army has returned to Radat, and we go along with Victor to investigate. Once there, we find out that it's the Kiva and Klaus team again. Klaus also drops the info that Joey's wedding is happening soon. During the next war sequence, Ridley and Chu fight, and it ends with the Kobold army retreating and ending the fight prematurely. When we go to sleep, the scene cuts to Joey's wedding ceremony. It was all a plan to poison the king. Once he dies, Luca ascends to the throne. In the next battle, Shu reveals his plan. Ridley's departure was just an act to trap Kiva's unit. We can also see that Rhodes does not help them. This was yet another plan by Luca to sacrifice the generals that were not loyal to him. When news of the king's death reaches the team, Kiva and Klaus accept working for our army. The very next meeting we are surprised by Sheena, the son of President Lepant. She proposes that we travel to the Toran Republic, the country where the first game took place. We assemble a team, and after a few detours and a boat ride, we take a hidden path through a forest. Note that the soundtrack changes to the one from the first game. You have to understand that the gap between the first two games was over 3 years, so this whole section was a major nostalgia trip. Once we beat the boss and reach the end, we'll meet the former bandit Barkas, who doesn't even get his own picture during the dialogue. The disrespect. Anyways, we get teleported into the palace, where the President Lepant actually accepts an alliance. And you get a choice between Kasumi and Valeria to become recruitable. I would say that Kasumi makes more sense lore-wise, but we know Valeria is my girl. We'll also finally get the blinking mirror. Once the scene's over, don't forget that you can turn right back to Barkas and enter Gregminster for a few nice item shops and some member berries. Also, on the way back, make a mental note that the hidden village of the ninja is around here. On our way back, we are received by Apple and Ridley. The Highland army is on the move again, and we must prepare for another fight. When we return to the castle, we're prompted to rest. But this is the ideal moment to take advantage of Vicky and the blinking mirror to travel and recruit some of the characters we have been missing. And also, and this is very important, you should assemble your favorite team, level them up into the upper 30s at least, get them decent armor, sharpen those weapons, and also equip them with the best runes you can. And this is a little bit weird, I waited this long to say this, but the inventory system has been improved by a lot by the inclusion of a global party inventory. You still have to equip items such as medicines to make them usable in combat, but it's way easier and with less hassle. Similarly, the store UI also makes upgrading equipment and handling reselling much better, a great improvement over the first game. When you feel prepared, make a hard save and go into the main room to continue the story. We start with bad news. Highland has reinforcements from Harmonia and the numeric difference is too great. Soon after, Ridley's unit is captured in battle. Chu plans to ambush Luca to try and win quickly, using Kiva as bait. During the battle sequence, everything seems to be going our way, but Luca's plot armor activates, forcing us to retreat. At the very least, Ridley was rescued and carries a letter from Leon. The letter is a warning that Luca will attack that very night and we can ambush him. Shu assumes that it's worth the risk and we prepare a plan to finally kill him. We will be directed to create not 1, not 2, but 3 teams. This is going to be essentially a 3-stage boss battle. The first two teams don't need to win exactly, just do as much damage as they can. After a few turns, or if you die, the fight will continue to the next stage. Luca himself is a beast that attacks 3 times per turn. When you reach the final stage, just unleash everything you have with your strongest characters. But no, it's not over yet. Luca launches a final desperate attack in a duel against Ryu. And yes, it's possible to mess up so bad that you could die here, so play it safe. After all that, it's finally done. One of the best villains in JRPG history is dead. And the game isn't even over. When we return to the castle, Ryu collapses from exhaustion. While everyone panics, the scene cuts to Highland where Jowy is crowned king. Surely peace is close at hand and nothing bad is going to happen. It has been a week, and we go with Nanami to Couscous and accidentally meet Kulgan. He's there to deliver an offer for a peace treaty. The deal is that Ryu and Teresa must go to Muse to sign. The group debates if it's a trap, but we decide to go. The team arrives at Muse and we make our way to Houston Hill for the supposed signing, but it was a trap.
It's a trap! Sorry. Just finally figured it out. On my way back to the office. Couldn't get it out of my head. Gotta go.
After all the drama is done, Victor comes in for the save and basically throws Pilica at Jowy, enabling everyone to escape. Shu had already anticipated this, so he had an escape plan ready. Nanami chews him out for using Pilica as a chess piece, but I don't think it's possible for Shu to care less. When you try to leave the castle, you'll meet Koyu. He brings news that the mountains near Tinto are getting attacked by zombies. This immediately alerts Victor, so we'll travel there to hopefully find and defeat Neclord for good. Koyu will open the way to the mountains for us and we'll quickly reach the mountain bandits. Does every bandit live in the mountains in this universe? Maybe it's a Chinese trope I'm not aware of. Anyways, the bandits have been overrun, so we must travel to the capital city of Tinto and organize a counteroffensive. When we reach the city, Gustav is pretty quick to accept our help, and sadly there is no option to directly tell him he's an asshole. The next day, Klaus and Ridley arrive to discuss tactics, but Neclord interrupts. He demands that we surrender the whole city and disappears. Back at the meeting, Jess enters the room. He still thinks we are the ones that killed Annabelle and has no intentions of working with us. At night, Legnat appears once again to remind you of your responsibilities and how the sword and the shield user are destined to clash. But what do you know, you'll have to visit Nanami, who finally speaks her mind and asks if we can abandon everything and stop fighting. You actually have an option to get a bad ending where both Ryu and Nanami permanently retire into a hut in the woods. The game gives you several opportunities to not do this, and actually if you change your mind at the last second you can continue the game, but Ridley will die and be replaced by his son Boris. From my research, you can still get the good ending even if Ridley dies, so I guess you could do this for variety's sake, but why would you? Ridley is the man! The kobold, whatever. The next morning, Jess takes his army to attack Neclord without consulting anyone. Klaus is forced to assist him to avoid making more zombies for Neclord while we stay to protect Tinto. We can't leave the city, but we notice a disturbance on the nearby mine. When we explore, we realize that Neclord was planning a sneak attack this whole time. Neclord attempts to curse Ryu, but his true rune manages to repel it. When we escape the mines, we see Tinto is full of zombies, and Ryu suddenly collapses, so Nanami carries Yu on her back. Then the scene cuts to Jowy, who seems to be in pain as well. I'm not really sure what he's trying to say here. We wake up in the town of Crom, and we'll meet our friend Khan again. He has a method to finally stop Neclord, but we need to find a special person close by. In the village of Tigermouth, we'll find Sierra, another vampire, and the previous user of the Moon Rune. She'll demand a fight, but after we defeat her, she will join. Back at Crom, the plan is to use the mining tunnels to sneak into Tinto and strike at Neclord. The dungeon is not difficult, but it's pretty long and has a design where the roads loop above themselves, which I don't like very much. There's also a little box-pushing puzzle. There are going to be two bosses really close to each other, so you might want to save your magic points for later. You can use Escape Talisman if you want to quickly leave and rest after the first boss, but I really didn't want to go through the tunnels more than once, so I took the risk. After a bit of a pseudo-stealth section, we can finally face off against Neclord with the funkiest boss music I have ever heard. He really likes to attack female characters, so poor Nanami was tanking the whole fight. When we defeat him, Sierra recovers her rune, and Victor finally kills Neclord for real. Once outside, Jess returns with his apologies, and both the remaining Muse forces and the city of Tinto join our army. Now that we are much stronger, Chu plans to retake Greenhill by force and will deploy tomorrow. That night, we can wander the castle and see several scenes of secondary characters preparing mentally for the fight. As usual, Suikoden doing what it does best and creates great character work with just a few brief scenes. When we finally go back to our room, we get a surprise whipping from Lucia. It doesn't really matter what your choices are afterwards, she always escapes. The next morning, the battle for Greenhill finally starts. This time you actually get a choice. If you go with Kiva, you'll go to Greenhill and face Juver. If you choose Victor, you'll have to fight Jowy and his generals. And I had neglected to mention this thus far, but when one of our army units is defeated, you have a low chance that one of your characters will die forever. If that happens, say goodbye to the good ending. Once the army battle is done, you'll sneak into Greenhill with Teresa and Chin. Before reaching the city, we'll be attacked by Lucia. After we get to university grounds, don't forget you can save and rest with these NPCs, because the next boss might be problematic for certain parties. When we reach the city center, our friend Juver from Suikoden I shows up and drops a boss on us. I struggled a little bit because some of my characters were very unprepared, but brute force always wins. As soon as we return, we are received with bad news. Highland has invaded Matilda and took it over while we were distracted. We decide that this is a good opportunity to retake Muse, but before we travel there, we spot Lucia. She leads the team to Jowy, who once again asks that we retire and stop fighting, but neither side is willing to quit. During the next army battle, most Highland troops will retreat, leaving only Lucia's soldiers. Note that to win, you only need to get a single unit inside the city. It's not necessary to kill everyone. Once we can explore inside the city, we'll be received by a surprise boss battle. Luke explains that the blood sacrifices to the Beast Rune have summoned the monsters. Since there is nothing we can do, we're forced to abandon Muse. When we return to the castle, we're told by Shu to just rest for now. Now that Greenhill is ours, this is the time to grab every single recruitable character we are missing. Now, this is not a guide video, but there are a couple of standouts I have to mention. First and foremost, if you loaded a save from Suikoden I at the start of the game, you can do the mini-quest to make the previous hero playable. You can actually do this right after Luca dies, but this is kind of a chore, so I tend to leave it until later. Go to Banner Village and speak with the kid dressed in red. He will tell you about the man that spends his days fishing. Go to the little spot next to the inn and you'll find Gremio. If you speak to the kid again, he'll make a Gremio move and you can go ahead and talk to Tyr. If you have a Suikoden I character with you, he might say some extra dialogue. But the story doesn't end here because the kid has gone missing, so Tyr joins the team and we go to the forest to look for him. Once we go deep into the forest, we'll find the kidnappers and a boss fight. The giant butterfly is surprisingly tough, but we get a nice cutscene kill as a reward. Then we'll take the kids to the palace and get a few more member berries seeing all characters, and we're even invited to a dinner back at the mansion. Once all that is done, we'll be returned to Banner. From now on, we can make Tyr join our party, but the catch is that you have to manually go pick him up at Greenhill, and there are no shortcuts to get there. Another important character is George Prime. You can find him on the mountain path to Tinto. He's very strong, comes over-leveled, and he's also kind of important lore-wise. But you're gonna have to wait until Suikoden 5 to actually understand it. Also, another character I wanted to show was Annalie, not because it's difficult or important or anything, but because I'm playing on a patch version that fixes the soundbugs. I can finally hear her sing. The original unpatched US version had this scene completely silent. Once the tablet shows that you have every character and no one is dead, let's continue. To advance the main quest, visit Chu's room. You'll see Kiva enter and have a very important conversation. Many sacrifices will have to be made to achieve victory. During the planning, Legnat does her thing and just crashes the meeting. It's kinda funny how no one reacts. Magic ladies just showing up from nowhere is a common occurrence now. Anyways, the full power of your rune has been unlocked. The next morning, we watch Kiva depart, and it's a very nice moment. From now on, drama is going to start hitting, boys. We better get ready. The next army battle is actually strange. The bad guys surround us, but some tiny reinforcements show up and they all withdraw? That was kinda weird. The next scene shows that the reinforcements were fake. The next step is invading Rockaxe castle. While the army distracts, our small team will infiltrate and burn the flag. This will make the Matilda Knights switch sides. Wait a moment, let me go pick Tyr. Before we actually enter the castle, a messenger comes with news. Kiva has been killed in battle and the Highland army is on its way back. The dungeon itself is a bit tiresome, with lots of forced fights and a low variety of enemies, but don't worry, things will get better. When we get close to the end, our party will leave and Tyr will even get a bit of dialogue. We keep going with Ryu and Nanami alone only to run into Jowy. After yet another conversation where neither one wants to give in, We are interrupted by Gorudo, the leader of the Matilda Knights. And here is another key moment to get the best ending. You have a split second to pick the second option. If you see Ryu enter a combat stance, you know you did it right. No matter what, the arrows will hit Nanami, and Ryu and Jowy will join together for the boss battle. After that, Jowy will leave and our army will arrive. Nanami is rushed to Dr. Juan back at base, and after some suspense, we get the news that she is dead. We can talk to Shu. He says that Highland has retreated to their capital and it's time to take the battle to them. This means that Muse is accessible again. The first thing we should do is tell him to wait a bit while we go complete another step in Clive's quest. When we return and give Shu the go-ahead, Ryu will collapse again and the screen changes to Highland, where Joey sacrifices Gilia for the Beast rune, but it's actually a fake body. And he collapses right after as well. We wake up at night with everyone worried about us. You can wander around the castle, but to continue the story, visit Shu's floor to see a conversation with Abel. The scene ends with a dramatic word: fire. We can go to our room to rest after all that. The next morning, everyone gets together for one final hype session. Once the armies deploy, Shu and Victor will play the part of bait to draw Leon's army out. The plan is successful, and Shu pulls his last trump card. The forest he was hiding is set on fire. Shu was seriously planning to die for this victory. After talking with Leon, the scene fades out. But the suspense only lasts a few seconds, because Victor saves Shu from the fire. After all that excitement, we can finally ride into Greenhill? Listen, I'm not afraid of mispronouncing names, but this game just keeps testing me, man. In the next army battle, we can win relatively quickly by saving our bombarding skills and defeating Han's unit. There is no need to clean the whole board. Now it's time to assemble our best party and go into the final dungeon. Oh wait, let me go get Tyr. You might also want to travel to the small town to the northwest to see Clive's quest conclusion, assuming you're under the 20-hour time limit, or you cheated. The best hammer for blacksmithing is also sold here if you want it. Once you're ready, we can proceed. Right at the start, you'll fight Lucia again. Don't underestimate her AoE spells. Once the battle is over and her conflict with Teresa is resolved, she survives once again. It's almost like she's on the sequel or something. I'm not gonna lie, this dungeon is the definition of tiresome. A weird layout and lots of forced fights against the exact same configuration of enemies. Over and over and over again. The only positive is that there is so much fighting that you will probably hit the money cap very easily. The next mini-boss is a 1v1 against Han Cunningham, the man who dueled Ryu's grandfather so long ago, and the former user of the Black Sword rune. I think this character was kinda wasted, to be honest. It was just introduced recently and now he's dead. When you are near the end, the last save point will heal you to full, and right after you'll fight with Sid and Kulgan. And guess what? I don't like them very much either. They do feel the same niche as Ein Guide did in the previous game, and they do get some screen time in another game that we might talk about in the future. The scene cuts to Joey saying his goodbyes to Pilica and Gilia. What did happen here exactly? Doesn't matter, because it's time for the final boss. Leon sacrifices himself to bring the beast back to life. The boss is divided into 5 targets, and I'm pretty sure there is some kind of gimmick to it, but you can just overpower him somewhat easily. After the battle is over, the throne is empty, and as it is tradition, the castle begins to crumble. We finally escape and run outside the castle into the crowd, but the game still continues. Now you can just get the average ending by just becoming the president, but the best ending is quite hidden. Refuse the offer and leave the room. Don't forget to say goodbye to Victor and Flick on your way out. If you talk to Vicky, you can see that you can teleport to Chiaro. Get out of the town and go northwest into Tensan Pass. This is the zone from the very start of the game. Look for the place where Ryu and Jowy made their promise before jumping. If you did everything right, Jowy will be waiting for you there. Now, dueling and killing Jowy here will net you another inferior ending. So during the conversation you have to do everything within your power to avoid fighting, and when a duel starts, just spam defend. Jowy falls to his knees and drops the lore that he had to overexert himself to slow the beast rune, and overusing the incomplete rune is what's killing him. This explains all the times you have fainted in the game. Been playing this game for like 20-something years, but never made that connection before.
I'm kind of retarded.
Anyways, our favorite floating mystical lady Legnat swoops in and works her magic to heal everyone. Jowy will have to overcome all his guilt in another way. Now, if we did everything right with Nanami, Shu will be waiting at the exit of the pass with the news. Turns out Nanami faked her death. With the toll of seeing Ryu and Jowy fight and her presence putting Ryu at more risk, she decided to step away. Of course, on the worst endings, this never happens and she just stays dead. We are transported back to Ryu's house where the trio is finally reunited. They decide to travel with destinations unknown, after Jowy tells his family he's going to buy some milk. The customary screens summarizing the fates of the 108 start to appear, and the game is finally over. Suikoden II improves on everything the first game made: graphics, animation, UI design, combat systems, story, dialogue, and characters. But to me personally, the complete experience comes with playing 1 and 2 back to back. By the time this video is out, the Suikoden HD remasters should have already been released, and hopefully a new generation can enjoy them as well. To me, these two games deserve a place alongside the kings of the genre like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger. And talking about kings, or queens in this case, Miki Higashino's work shines once again with a massive 4-CD soundtrack and many arranged soundtracks that can easily stand among the other stars at the time like Uematsu or Mitsuda. This made picking my favorite songs very difficult. Making music showcases is just asking for trouble with YouTube's copyright systems, but it's not like I'm making money, so I just did one anyway. Signing off until the next one.
La passione